Hi, and welcome to Asian Women Shelter's video on educational skills. This video is focused on the social studies component of the GED online test. So we just finished with getting acclimated to where the practice test is online and how to get into it. And so now we're going to go right into that social studies test first page that we were just on and get going. So I'm going to share screen and get us started. So you should have this look a little familiar if you saw the video right before this one. On the left is the information that we're supposed to read and understand. And then on the right is the question. So sometimes you might want to read the question first so you know what to pay attention for. So the question says, which statement correctly describes an important way that the process of amending the US Constitution is different from the process of creating federal laws? So the process of amending the Constitution, that's, we presume, the bigger process because the US Constitution is a giant, important document. And that might be a bigger process than creating a new federal law, for example. So, all right, that's what we're looking at. And let's go and look on the left to see the information that we're supposed to understand. So on the left, you can see the chart below describes the four methods used to amend the US Constitution. So four methods, we can see one, two, three, four, each having a step one and a step two. So, method one, the first step is that two-thirds vote in both houses of the US Congress has to happen. And then step two is that then three-fourths of all of the state legislatures have to ratify it to approve it. So don't worry if you are looking at this and you're hearing me talk and you think, what are they talking about? Don't give up yet. It's pretty confusing and it's a pretty complicated question they're starting with, but let's get to the end together. So, method number two, step one, is that a two-thirds vote again happens in both houses of the US Congress, in the Senate and the House. So, that's the same as step one in method one. And then step two in method two is that it's ratified by ratification conventions in three-fourths of the states. So it's still three-fourths of the states that have to say yes, but in method one, it's the separate legislatures. In method two, it's at ratification conventions that happen in three-fourths of the states. All right, let's look at method three. Method three and four clearly have a different step one than methods one and two. So method three, step one, a national constitutional convention called by two-thirds of the state legislatures. That's step one, to have this National Constitutional Convention, a big meeting. Step two is that then it has to be ratified by three-fourths of the state legislatures. So that's the same as step two in method one. And then finally, method four, step one is this national convention called by two-thirds of the state legislatures. And step two says ratification by ratification conventions in three-quarters of the state. So it's same as step two in method two. So it's a lot to take in. So let's go through the possible answers and see what we think. So answer A. Is it answer A? Answer A says only one government branch is involved in the amendment process. And let's go back and make sure we understand the question. The question is, which statement, A, B, C, or D, correctly describes an important way that the process of amending or changing the US Constitution is different from the process of creating federal laws? So just know that this is the test for the GED. They probably aren't expecting that we know every detail about how federal law is made, versus how US constitutional law is made. Constitution amendments are made. So let's see what they do expect us to know. So option A says only one government branch is involved in the amendment process. So given that none of this is the first time we've heard the word branch in this whole question, let's think, all right, one government branch. What are the three branches of US government? That seems like big enough that they might expect the high school graduate to know. So, three branches of US government are the executive branch. Executive is like the president. So, we can look on the left. Do we see anything about the executive branch here? Do we see the word executive? Do we see the word president? No. Next branch is judicial branch. Judicial branch is the courts. You can think of the word judge, judicial. It's the legal branch. So then we can look, so who is it, the judicial branch that's involved in this amendment process? We already identified we don't see anything about the executive branch. And now, do you see anything that refers to the judicial branch? To state courts, federal courts, courts of appeal, district courts, superior courts, any courts? Nope. All right. Then the third branch. So we talked about executive, judicial, and the third is the legislative branch. Changing laws, writing laws, amending laws. So that is when it says two-thirds vote in both houses of Congress, that's talking about the legislative branch. State legislatures versus federal legislatures, it's all legislative branch. So option A says only one government branch is involved in the amendment process. So could that be true? We see legislative, we don't see judicial, we don't see executive. It seems like it could be true that there's only one involved. Let's keep going. Option B, only one legislative body can conclude the amendment process. So we can see in step 2, the second part of each of these four methods, 3/4 of the state legislatures have to be on board. That's a lot of legislative bodies. That's not just one legislative body. 3/4 of the states have to have their own legislative bodies say yes. So it's not B. C, only state legislatures are involved in the amendment process. Okay, look back on your left side. Do you see any body that's not a state legislature? And right now you can see the words like both houses of the US Congress. US Congress, that's in DC. That's not an individual state legislature. Um, National Constitutional Conventions. Um, Essentially, you look at the step 1 in methods 1 and 2, and you can see, nope, US Congress is involved here, so this is more than one legislative body that's getting involved. Um, so B is incorrect. And clearly, US Congress is involved, both houses, so C can't be correct either, because C is saying only state legislatures are involved. Not true. And then finally, D, only state governments can start the amendment process. So start, okay, let's look at step 1 instead of step 2. Step 1, only state governments can start it. Is that true? In step 1 and step 2, we can see that it's the houses of Congress that are starting it, not a state legislature. State legislatures are in method 3 and 4, but in method 1 and 2, we've got the houses of the US Congress. So D is incorrect. It's not true that only state governments can start the amendment process. So that leaves us with A. Only one government branch is involved in the amendment process. And that answer just requires us to know that there are three branches to the US government. And in all this language on the left side, we only see the legislative branch brought up, not the judicial, not the executive. So then when we're done, we have selected A, and then we have two choices. We can either just press next here in the bottom right and go to the next question, or if you're not sure and before you submit, you want to come back to this question, that's when you click this flag for review. So flag for review says, you know what, before I'm done, I want to come back and review this question to make sure I still agree with my selection of the right answer. But we're just going to carry forward and go next.